Hello everyone. Um, just thought I'd do a bit of a live update. It's just easier to go through all the stuff that's going on at the moment. Um, so Bitcoin is in a bit of a decision zone at the moment. Don't worry about this indicator, it looks a bit messy. I'll turn it off in a sec. But this is the 15-minute chart on Bybit. And obviously we've started Bollinger Band expansion, and we are outside the bottom of those Bollinger Bands. Now, typically, once something breaks beyond the Bollinger Bands when it's expanding, it stays outside that for a little while. It's not going to just rip straight back up and go to the moon. You can see here we do sometimes get false breaks, but false breaks again tend not to rip back anywhere past the middle of the Bollinger Bands. Sorry if you can't see this on your screen, but just know that that's what I'm talking about here. So again, we've sort of this is an exception to the rule, I guess, in a way. We did break above the Bollinger Bands, and they were expanding from a very tight range, and then it did come down and it broke below again. But we did have a reset as well, so the Bollinger Bands did start to contract again, and then once they've expanded again, prices below, you'll see we do get some sideways action, but once they're below, they kind of stay below for a little bit. So I think that's what's happening now. That's why I raised it. For a while now, I've been looking at. Man, did I delete that? Oh no, there it is. Let's go to the daily. So on the daily a while back, I sort of predicted. I thought we may actually come up and touch on this resistance level around the 32 mark. We didn't get there. Just didn't have the force to get there. And I think that's a little bit because a lot of this pump is in perpetual markets. It's not in spot market. So you're talking traders, basically, day traders and stuff. So potentially a lot of manipulation by exchanges, that sort of thing. Now, again, the Bollinger Bands kind of provided a bit of resistance there. Couldn't break through it. Momentum comes back down. So looking on the daily, I thought we'd get there, and then I thought we'd potentially, this level that we're at right now, and we're about $2 away from the support level that I've got drawn there. It's potential that we bounce from here. This is the bottom of this whole range that we've been in for ages. Just get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. So we are at the bottom of this range. This is a pretty critical level for it. Now, if we get a daily closure below here, below probably this wick here is at a low of 26,474. Might be different on different exchanges, so be aware of that. If we wick below that, then if we close below that wick, then I'd actually, especially on the daily, I would expect us to come back into this little supply zone here. Looking at it though now, like back when I drew this, I didn't think we'd be forming a head and shoulders. So if you look at it, that's your left shoulder, that's your head, that's your right shoulder. If that pattern actually plays out, which I don't mind it for reversal patterns in Bitcoin, I wouldn't say it's 100%, nothing is, but if that plays out, I would be expecting that sort of measured move there to play out. Now, that's down around the 22,300-ish, and we'd be back inside this range here. Now, if we put, let's do, I don't, oh, there we go. If we do a volume profile, that level there, the 22,900, is probably going to pull you up. So it may not, like we may wick down into the 22.3s or something like that, but there's going to be a fair bit of support around this level here, I think, where all that volume is. Sort of the highest traded zone, just below 23. So that's a potential target. We could just bounce off this level here, but probably less likely, I would say, if we just continue straight down from here. I'd say it's less likely that we bounce off that little bit of supply there. So is it going to do it now? Or are we going to bounce off here? Hard to say. I probably need to see the closure of this daily to really get a better idea. But let's just go down to some of these shorter time frames. So we've recovered this little wick here, which the guys in Opus Labs that follow the analysis channel there, or the channel in Raycorp, I've sort of been talking since I saw that wick come down. I suggested we probably would track back down to the bottom of that. That is very typical for Bitcoin, like super typical for Bitcoin. Any sort of decent wicks to the downside tend to get recovered over time. Doesn't always happen straight away, but it tends to happen. So we've gone there, we've recovered that. This level here is a wick level, a vector candle wick level. So we've almost tapped that as well. On the 4 hour, momentum's not. I'll just turn. Sorry. This is my development model for my indicator, so don't get too worried about that. This stepped blue line here is the daily momentum. Actually getting towards the bottom. So the way I've drawn these indicators, sort of the maximum level is the upper Bollinger Band. The minimum level is the lower Bollinger Band. So this blue line is getting close. Typically with momentum, I like to see swings outside of the Bollinger Bands. So this is the current momentum, the current time frame on the chart momentum, and the blue line is the longer time frame momentum. At this stage, it's the daily. So what you really want to see, like the best moves tend to be where you've got daily momentum aligning with the shorter time frame momentum. Been in choppy shit for a while here, but if you go back, this one here is a good example. We've got daily momentum coming down, and then we've got shorter time frame momentum pumping up from the outside. That was a great long position. Obviously, that's a pretty good pump right there. So, what I think is going to happen here, at the moment, we're finding a bit of support at the bottom Bollinger Band. So that's something to take into consideration. We are only just starting to expand these Bollinger Bands on the 4 hour. So this this line here is the middle line of the Bollinger Bands. It's red when they're contracting, it's green when they're expanding. Again, that's another little addition I made to the indicator. This orange line suggests that there's a squeeze happening. So if anyone uses the TTM squeeze indicator, that's basically what that is. I've adjusted that a little bit as well. But what we are seeing is some expansion of the BBWP. So the Bollinger Band Width Percentile is a typical volatility indicator. And it's when it's expanding, you're expecting a bit of momentum behind the move. And it is expanding at the moment. TTM indicator is starting to point down. Excuse me. So generally with this isn't a TTM indicator. That's actually my indicator, combined indicator. But you've got the KVO is this indicator here, the red and green one. It's pointing down, momentum's pointing down, my indicator's pointing down, which is just a combination of a heap of different indicators. Daily momentum is still pointing down. I actually think we will break through this level here, this 26,600-ish. I would be surprised if we don't break through it. 4 hours not great for picking turns on Bitcoin, in my opinion. It's good for a bit of momentum. But knowing we've got daily momentum down, 4 hour momentum down, 4 hour starting to expand the Bollingers. The 1 hour has broken outside the Bollinger Bands. All the momentum is down at the moment in that as well. And BBWP is expanding. Everything at the moment is pointing to the downside. What I'm thinking at the moment though is we're probably going to get a little bounce here. And the reason being is, one, this is going to be a defended zone, I think, being at the bottom of this big channel that we've had lately. Let's just get rid of that. So being at the bottom of this huge channel, I think that's going to be fairly defended. Now, Bitcoin tends to rip to the downside when it breaks levels like this. You don't get a lot of retracement on the higher time frames. Just see if I can find an example of that. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good example here. That was a key level. So that was a key level there for this zone. Obviously, you got a bit of there was a resistance level, support level. Come to that higher time frames, it's slowed down. Paused on the hourly, bit indecision there, and then it's just ripped. That tends to be how Bitcoin does it. Now, on the shorter time frames, what did it do? Where'd it go? Hey, bastard. Just yeah. Sorry, I don't worry about the shorter time frames on that one. But on the shorter time frames, sometimes you do actually see a little bit of a break, and it won't necessarily be the level you draw. So it might have been that this was the level that people considered the support level, which is 21,500 basically. 21,500, yeah, it did break below, came back up, retested, and then came down. On the sort of 15-minute time frame, you'd be able to see that. But if you're not watching 15-minute time frames, you're going to miss that basically whole move. So that's just something to be careful of. If you're in longs or anything at the moment, I'd be getting out of them just in case. Not a great position to be longing from, I don't think. Get back over where we are. And yeah, I think any bounce here is just going to be a bit of retracement, potentially back. This diamond one is the 50 EMA, so potentially back into the 50 EMA. But at the same time, a break like that doesn't tend to always come back into the 50 EMA either. So typically, in my experience, you sort of get a break, you'll come back in. This maybe a 20 EMA or something like that level, just inside the Bollinger Band, and then we keep going. The fact that we come in here, this news event was a bit of bullshit. Yeah. It's a tricky level. It's not super strong. It's stronger on the 15-minute in terms of what the direction looks like. But right here, it's at a real decision point. Okay. The one thing that we've got sitting here which suggests we may have a bit of retracement or even a bit of sideways for a little bit. If we go sideways here, expect more down. If we have a decent retracement here, then we may have found a bit of a bottom. And I'd be looking, if we do start to head back up with a bit of conviction, I'd be looking, one, you want to recover this vector candle, and then a second target would be up around that 28, 29 mark, where there's a few other vector candles that haven't been recovered yet up here and in there. So vector candles make great targets once you've got your momentum in play. This vector candle here suggests that there may be a change, a shift happening. The good old violet vector to the downside, that tends to mean you're starting to stop and you'll find a bit of a turn. Doesn't always happen at that point. It just means the market maker's getting involved. He's looking to slow down the price drop and he's looking to build some longs again. This here was actually a vector candle, I believe. A vector candle like that, I'd be pretty confident you're not going much lower for the time being. No follow through on it. It's an indecision candle. It just means the market maker's just stopped price. Like, no, that's enough. Let's go back up. Okay. Doesn't necessarily go back up straight away, but that's the general philosophy. Same with the blue vector candles. They're a good stopping volume candle as well. Green and red, you want to see, if you're on a decent move, you want to see a couple of these in a row, and then you tend to get a bounce. So generally 3 vector candles in a row is what you see in the main part of a move. Now, we've pretty much had that here. You've got sort of 1, 2, 3, although that was a bit of an indecision. And then you got your stopping volume. So I think here, and the fact that the momentum on the 1 hour is outside the Bollinger Bands at the moment, it does stay out there sometimes. So if you had gone on that principle here, it wouldn't have mattered too much because there's no vector candles in this spot. So, and the momentum's headed down on that indicator. That's a pretty clear down trend. The only thing is the Bollinger Band with percentile isn't expanding. But as soon as you got that expansion on the BBWP and this indicator's heading down, you kind of know it's going to continue going down. Okay? Especially with KVO in the same direction. So applying those same principles here, yes, we are headed in that same direction. To really call it a turn on this with confidence, one, I'd like to see one of these little green pluses, which is actually it's just a crossover of the stochastic signal and the EMA on it. I'd like to see that, along with a bit of a turn in the indicator itself. Typically, KVO is a slower indicator at turning. Momentum is a good one, but once you're outside in this range, it's a bit hard to pick. As you can see here, even once you're outside the Bollinger Bands, in particular on price action, then you can't necessarily trust the bounce as much. So BBWP is expanding, KVO is down, indicators down. Technically, stochastic momentum still down. We've kind of taken probably some stop losses out here, I would suggest. I'd say there was people longing that had stop losses below this wick. There's going to be more stop losses in this area here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we keep going at least into this sort of region, into the, it'll potentially wick down into the 26.4-ish area. We could get a bounce there. I say that because there's going to be a lot of liquidity there, and when the market makes a run for that sort of liquidity, it can turn pretty quickly to the upside because it wants to just liquidate. Wants to liquidate those longs and then go long. So it doesn't want to give you a chance to go long as well. He's the one that wants the longs all to himself. So that is pretty much all I wanted to point out today. It's pretty critical. If we get even an hourly closure sort of below that 26,500 mark, then I'd be pretty concerned. I'd dare say we'd rip down and we'd be ripping down somewhere into that 24 down into potentially the high 22s, I would suggest. At which point, I think there's a pretty good chance that we actually do something similar to what it did recently. Let's go back to 4 hour. So as you can see here, it's come up, big pump, come down, big pump, come down, question mark, and then another pump. Now, just do we see this level here, the 36, 37 mark? 35 is called by a lot of people. Probably. If we do see a decent turnaround from anywhere in this region here, if we do see a decent bounce, then yeah, that'd be my target. Probably into June, July, and then we start to go sideways and get ready for the big dump. This, I just also wanted to point out that typically you get 3 legs in a run. That there being the first leg. Oops. This here being the second leg. Now the second leg, funnily enough, is normally the biggest leg. So that sort of plays out true here. But I'd only be expecting something similar to something similar to the first leg to the third leg. Now that puts us somewhere around 34.5, 35, which kind of would suggest that, yeah, there is a potential that we actually go up from here. That would align with a lot of different targets, fill the gap on CME, all sorts of stuff. If we're going up from, say, here, then we're only just getting into this 32 sort of 500 level, which that's sort of my initial target. That's what I thought we'd go to here. But that's a little concerning because if we can't break through that, then that would suggest that's as far as we're going to go in this run. I would think if we can't go straight through and push through this block here, not looking good for much more upside, but that's a fair way away at the moment. I think, look, hopefully it bounces here, but I need to see some turn in momentum before I could suggest that that's going to happen. We have touched this level a lot. So yeah, I don't know. Even looking at this, oops, what the hell was that? Let's just clone that. It's not really as a turning point. There's no real trend line to turn off here. This trend line here, though, is really interesting because trend lines are just zones, really. They should be thought of as zones. But you look at this, it's respected it here, broke down, smash back through it. Respected, broke through, retest essentially, and now we're going down again. To me, that suggests there's potential we do continue downside. So again, sort of confirmation even below sort of 26,500 is a pretty critical level, really. The top of this wick here, bottom of some of these wicks, that's a massive level. 1 hour or 4 hour closures below that, unless it's a massive fake out from the market maker, in which case I would be paying a lot of attention to the shorter time frames and to the vector candles. Yeah, I think we're going to go a bit sideways here, but just be careful because this can rip at any time. Like, you're only talking 5-10 minute candles to actually get a rip to the downside here. So yeah, confluence for me, everything that's going on at the moment is basically more downside. Hopefully that helps. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. I'll catch you later.